What's going on, family? Welcome back to the channel. I am Corey, that's Keisha, and those are the kids, and we are His and Herbs. All together, collectively, we are His and Herbs. And we're just some small time, soon to be big time gardeners growing food in the high desert of Southern California. So today, guys, what we wanted to talk to you guys about was blackberry plants, right? And how to propagate them. But not only blackberry, but also boysenberry plants as well. So we're going to talk about those two plants, which are very similar in the way that they grow and that they propagate themselves. And we're going to talk about how we're propagating them this year so that we can have an infinite amount of blackberry bushes at our disposal. All right, so let's go. All right, guys, so simply put, the boysenberry and the blueberry both propagate basically the same way. Then they propagate much like a strawberry plant does. You know how a strawberry plant, some strawberry plants, not all, but most strawberry plants, they propagate by runners. So they'll just send out a runner, which is basically another baby plant. They'll send out a runner from the mother, and once that runner touches ground and establishes at that ground point, it'll start to put out roots that will ultimately end up being like allowing that plant to be self-sufficient, right? Blackberries and boysenberries operate just about the same way. Not just about, they operate the same exact way. So with the blackberry plant, this is our triple crown blackberry. These plants put out what's called primocanes and floricanes, okay? And the difference is a primocane is a fruiting branch. So this one last year, a primocane, excuse me, is a flowering branch. So last year, this big, thick man of a vine is called the primocane. And the reason why this is a primocane is because last year, this just put out nothing but flowers. It didn't fruit. It put out flowers, no fruit. Then we had some of the other canes. The other canes are the floricanes, which actually are the second year vines or the second year canes. They actually put out the fruit. So the first year primocane, they flower. Second year floricane, they fruit, and then after that the vine dies back. That one particular branch will die back, right? So you can see that we have some branches up here that are basically dying off, so they're not going to do anything this year, right? Because they fruited this year. So this year, they fruited last year, excuse me. This year I'm expecting for this to fruit because it flowered last year. So what we're going to do, so the way that the blackberry propagates itself is it'll put out a runner, right? And this runner will come in contact with the ground. And once it comes in contact with the ground, it'll start to put out roots at that contact point, okay? Which is establishing another blackberry plant or boysenberry plant. And then it'll sprout up another plant right there in that one spot. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, this is a vine that's coming from that blackberry plant right there. So it's wrapping around this container, this planter, and it's just sitting down over here. Now, it's been in contact with the ground for a minute. And you can see right here where it started to get those little nodes. That's where the roots were going to come out at. So if this thing just stayed on the ground in contact with the ground, it'll form roots right there and become a completely independent plant. And as you can see right here, back here, I can't move the planter because the grapes have found their way into the ground. So I don't want to bother it right now. But if you can see right here, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. See if I can get a little closer. This vine off the same blackberry bush or plant has already found its way into the ground and it's already getting established. It has roots. I don't know if you guys can see them, but it has a set of roots right here that's just above ground, which means they also have roots underneath. Okay, now let me give you another example. Okay, so this boysenberry bush is, like I said, they operate the same way. So check this out. So right here, we have going into the ground right here. You see this? Let's see if we can move these out the way without disturbing anything. So, yeah. So right here, we have boysenberry, a new boysenberry plant that's being established. Same thing with right here. Mind that trash. Wind does what it wants to do. But we have another boysenberry plant coming up right here. Okay, and all these things did was just laid on the ground. They laid on the ground, they rooted, and they became two new plants. So I'm gonna I was gonna dig it up and repot it, but you know what? I'm gonna let it go until spring once it gets a little bit taller, and then I'll dig it up and repot it. But technically right now, I can cut this cane, these two canes away from the mother plant because they have roots established and those plants can survive independently. The last thing I want to show you guys is this right here. This is the one I did on purpose. All I did was the process that I'm going to show you guys today, how we're going to propagate these blackberry plants, was I put this cane in this pot full of soil, full of compost, and I left it there for about, this took about, I'm gonna say roughly 2 months because I wasn't checking it every day. But it took roughly 2 months, and then when I came back to check, it was all rooted up. And let's see if I can get down and show you guys. That's about as deep as I want to dig for right now. But you guys can see the roots right there. Those little white fibers. Those are the roots from this cane, from this vine. So we'll cover that back up, leave that alone, and let it continue to do its thing. So as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of effort to propagate a blackberry or a blueberry plant. So I'm going to work on this one today, and the reason why I'm focusing on this one is because I've been trying to propagate it, but every now and again the wind gets super heavy and it blows over the planters that I have them set up in. All right, so I'm like, the weather's not working with me here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try something different, something along the lines of like an air layer, but not really an air layer. I'm going to use the same methodology, but you'll see that in a second. And then I'm going to do it the traditional way, where I take one end of a cane and basically just plant it, and it'll allow Mother Nature to do the rest. Okay, and let me show you what I mean by that. Let me show you how that's done. This is the same method. So this is the same method I use for the bosenberry, and like I said, it could have been less than 2 months, but like I said, I was trying to forget about it, so I was trying not to check on it every day, like I have a tendency of doing. So time slipped away, and when I checked one day, it had roots. So it could have been a month, it could have been 2 months, but ideally, it takes about a month. It takes about 30 days, maybe 6 weeks for these to establish roots this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this vine right here. Take this vine. This is not a dead vine, right? It's still alive. It's not one of the ones that fruited last year. I'm going to take this vine. I'm going to strip the leaves back just a bit, right? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of this vine, and I'm going to just plant it. I'm just going to bury it right into the soil, just like this, as deep as you want to make it, right? But the whole vine that whole piece of that vine is in that soil, okay? Now let me show you what I'm doing here. I left a little bit of soil in there, and all I'm doing is burying this vine just like this. It's got quite a few nodes. It's got, let's see, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, potentially nine nodes that's going to be buried under this soil, under this container. So I'm going to do it like this. And I'm using this pot because it's a little bit deeper than the others. Okay, thought the camera cut off. It's a little deeper than the other pots that I was using because I wanted to get more of that vine down there. And honestly, that's it. That's all I'm going to do for this vine. That's it. I'm done. All I'm going to do after this is just water it in and leave it alone. Okay, for this last one, like I said, I'm going to do kind of an air layer method, but not really an air layer method. What I'm really going to do is I'm going to take this is a 1 gallon freezer bag, okay? And I'm going to wrap this vine in this freezer bag full of soil to see if I can get it to root that way. Okay, so I'm going to So I'm going to take this soil, put it in this freezer bag. This is just compost. Right? I'm going to take this vine and stick it in the bag. And then I'm going to fill the bag up some more with some more compost. So this vine is in that bag. And we're going to fill this thing up, not all the way, just to make enough to make sure that it's covered well. Then I'm going to moisten it in. I'm gonna wet it. Not so much that it mildews or it causes a problem in the long term, but enough to where we don't have to worry about it drying out. It stays wet the entire time, just like an air layer would be, right? And this is an experiment to see if it works. Because this vine here definitely kept coming out of the planter. I guess because it's so thick and it just had so much tension on it from the plant that it just kept popping out of the planter. So I want to make sure that that's covered well. Make sure that this is watered in well. And I might just go ahead and put a hole in the bottom just to make sure that we don't have any issues with by being too wet. I got it. Yeah, I got it right now. Okay. Once again, I have several nodes that's going to be buried. Let's see. Trying to see how it looks. Make sure I don't have like no pockets of standing water. That looks like it might be all right. We got a little bit of standing water right there. Got some right there, but I think that'll be okay. Worst case scenario, I'll come out at some point and I will cut a hole in it if I need to, in order to let some of that moisture out. So now we have that vine buried just like that. Okay. And all I'm gonna do now, make sure that, okay. All I'm gonna do now is take the zip tie. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna zip tie. Zip tie this bag right onto this vine. Not too tight, don't want to strangle the vine out, but just enough to where, you know, it's nice and secure on the bag. Now, what my theory is that this is going to act just like an air layer. Okay. Right at this point, I could put it in sit this whole bag in like another planter to keep it kind of dark while it do its thing, or I could potentially leave it out like this. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit it in another planter. I'm gonna use this planter right here. I'm gonna put this compost down here at the base of this plant here, base of the plant. And all right, so now all I'm gonna do is take this planter, put that in there like that, and boom. All right, that should be good to go. Now, if everything works according to plan, this should set roots at about 6 weeks. If not in 6 weeks, then I'm expecting, you know, when springtime rolls around, it should really take off. So, all right, guys. So that's how we're gonna propagate this triple crown blackberry. We have one here. We have another one over there, and then you saw you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do that last one that I showed you that looked like it was trying to set root. and then we have the one that's already set and root in the ground. So I'm gonna do the same method on that one that was set and root in the ground, and then that'll be it. Yes, this one is already telling me that it wants to propagate. I'm gonna go ahead and help it out a little bit. And I'm gonna use the same method here because I have two in planters and then 2 in bags, and we'll see which ones. If the bag method even works, which I think it will, because I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't. I'm gonna take this one, since like I said, it was already budding out. Take off these leaves here. I am like super hungry, y'all. We haven't eaten yet, and I'm starting to feel it now. So I'm gonna do that just like this. I'm gonna bury the rest of this. Bury the rest of this in some compost. And look, boy, look at that. Worms. Well, we got we got worms, y'all. Now, what I'm hoping, y'all, is because I do have worms in this bag, right? Moisten this a little bit more. What I'm hoping is that they don't suffocate being in this plastic bag. You guys tell me what y'all think in the comments. You think the worms are gonna suffer, or do you think they're gonna be okay? Either way, I'm still following the procedure the same way, but obviously we're not taking all the air out of either of these bags. All right, so now I'm gonna take this once again. Like when I did the first one, I didn't even zip tie that one. Like I said, I didn't cinch it down all the way, so it still has the potential for air to get in there. And I'm gonna do the same thing here, but I'm gonna leave this with a nice gap right there so that it has some level of airflow. And if I need to, I will come back and poke some small holes in here to allow this to get some air. Try not to squeeze it too much because of the worms, because I want the worms in there. I want them to stay, and I don't want them to run away. So we're gonna do that. And I'm gonna put some compost over here by this other vine that's rooting. Cover those vines up and allow them to continue to do their thing and see what we get. So now that's it, y'all. I'm gonna put it in this. Can I sit in this bucket? Yeah, I can, if I so desire. I'm gonna just do it like that, and that's that. Honestly, now once you have these things set, y'all, once you have everything set up like you want it, you don't want this to dry out. You never want it to dry out. You want it to maintain some constant level of moisture. That way you can get your roots to pop out. So don't let it dry out, because if it does, it could. I allowed mine to dry out on accident. It had rained, and I thought the rain was enough, and within a couple of days it was dry, but it still put out, the boysenberry still put out roots, so it was still fine. Okay, so that's it. That's all that I'm doing, y'all. I ain't doing nothing more than that. This plant honestly is done, and within the next 6 weeks or so, I expect to see 1, 2, 3, 4 new blackberry bushes, blackberry plants. So like I said, y'all, that's it. It's not a whole lot to propagating boysenberry and blackberry plants. It's not a whole lot to it. They propagate the exact same. It did take me a while to figure out what I was doing wrong with the boysenberry, because look at the kitty. You scared the kitty out of her hiding spot. I was doing what was happening with the boysenberry. I was letting them dry out too much, so they weren't rooting like they were supposed to. So then I tried again, and I made sure that they stayed wet. So I came out every day and I watered just to make sure it stayed wet or stayed moist. And boom, got the roots, got the plant. So we have another boysenberry that's popping off of that one. And then y'all saw the two on the ground. I'm telling you, like, they want to propagate themselves. They're just like strawberries. They don't want to die off. So this method, I expect to see good things out of both of these methods. So if you guys like what you saw, if you learned something today, please let us know. Leave it in the comments. Let us know. It helps us. It makes us feel good when people say, "Oh, hey, I learned something from your videos." It absolutely does, right? Because we do this for you guys as well as us. We do this for everybody, for you guys, for us. You know, so it definitely makes us feel good. But hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And you guys know what to do. All right. And we will see you guys in the next video. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all watching first and foremost. We appreciate each and every one of you guys for watching these videos. We know you don't have to, but you do. And when you do, it helps us out. And we definitely greatly appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much. All right. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.